You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
The more it stays the same. Life is full of small surprises. It's a never-ending game. If nothing is impossible, will you believe your eyes? If the unexpected brings a smile, that's a big surprise. Surprise, surprise. The unexpected hits you between the eyes.
The unresistible voice there of this week's special guest on Achtung Millwall, Miss Cilla Black. Big welcome to Cilla for that little intro. Surprise, surprise, as the lady sang there. Absolutely. I think we're all probably reeling in the aftermath of Gary Rowett's departure. Yes, by mutual agreement, dear listeners. Not, I think one or two last night in the heat of the moment. We're talking about sackings, but it seems to have been by mutual agreement. As they used to say in the 70s, bands, musical and artistic differences probably came to pass there. Now, this is the voicemail show, one of my favourites of what we do now on Achtung. So, huge thank you in advance to everybody who's sent me in voicemails. But before we begin, I neglected this on last night's emergency pod. That was a case of drop everything, Nick, halfway through watching some Netflix business. Drop everything because you've got an emergency pod to do regarding Gary Rowett. So yeah, anyway, we've got our pundit question to listeners, punditgames.co.uk. There's a drop down option to say that you're a Millwall fan, Achtung Millwall listener. If you take that, then the Lions Food Hub gets a benefit from each sale of this wonderful quiz board game. Today's question, to give you a bit of a taste of the kind of questions that you get in there, you answer questions on football and get a few in sequence and you score a goal. And that way you beat your opponent. So anyway, today's taster question for you all, dear listeners, answer at the end of the show. This is one from the Premier League in the 2000s. This is an elegant Spaniard who made his name at Valencia before moving to Lazio in 2001 for €47 million, making him at the time the sixth most expensive player at that point. He finished his career at Middlesbrough in 2008, and after 4 years on Teesside, he retired after winning the League Cup with them in 2004. So Valencia, 230 appearances in La Liga, 1993-2001. Just 20 games for Lazio, 2001 to 2004. A short spell with Barcelona on loan, 2002-3. And then 62 performances, 4 goals for Middlesbrough, 2003 to 2008, including a League Cup win in 2004. Who was that player, dear listeners? Get the more details of this and other questions at punditgames.co.uk. Use the drop down if you're going to buy one. It's great for Christmas, birthdays and bar mitzvahs, as we've said many a time. Now then, Gary Rowett, we barely knew you for and we did know you actually for after 4 years. Interesting range of emotions online today. I think a lot of us probably see the same as Gary said in his post, parting statements, that it was probably the right time for all concerned. I think there's probably a consensus that that's the case, dear listeners. Equally, probably a fairly reflective mood around the Millwall scene, in my opinion. This whole cliche of be careful what you wish for. Personally, I think he's done a huge job with us when you look at the statistics since he arrived with us in October 2019, so nearly just short of 4 years he was with us. Consistently, we're finishing in the top half of the Championship, which is a historic achievement by Millwall standards. The downside, of course, is on the one hand we are achieving good, statistically good performances by Millwall standards. The downside of it is that the pulsating excitement of the Den has gone walkabouts. It's gone off down Ilderton Road and caught a bus into somewhere else. Who knows, Peckham or somewhere. And that's the problem. That's been the problem for a while now. You know it, we know it. I think probably Gary Rowett knows it. So yeah, there it is, a reflective mood, I think, amongst the Mill support. No one's really too sure who we're going to get as our next step in the story of Millwall. But anyway, let's open up with our voicemails, dear listeners. Let's have a quick listen to the first one, which is from Craig Jones, which actually probably sums up where I'm at with this. So take it away, Craig.
Holy shit. Wow. In fact, that was the first thing I said when I saw the news break, that Rowett is mutually agreed to part company with Millwall Football Club. Something says to me that he's probably seen the writing on the wall and has decided to walk. Certainly from a position where I know we are not a club that sacks or gets rid of managers with gay abandon like Watford do. But yeah, this is very odd. Not like any of us were not expecting it. You know, we've all been pontificating about how the football has not been great. The home form has been terrible since, I think we could say, from the moment that we lost 1-0 to Huddersfield last season. Even thinking about the inconsistency of our performances and how dreary it's been and how insipid at times we've been. The last game I went to, Plymouth away, we actually played pretty well in the second half. But first half, we were all over the shop. Certainly, even my mates I watched it with could tell that there was something not quite right with the way that we were set up, and that we were still really negative, and the pragmatism of Rowett's game really was beginning to hurt. And also talk about how he's probably peaked after the first half against Blackburn last season. Was that his Everest? Was that it for him? And it was just downhill from there. And yeah, there's loads of other factors, and John Berylson tragically passing away. But you've got to think that he could tell. Like, if the fans are starting to sing about you saying your football is shit, that is not a good sign that it's going to last very long for you after that. And now you need to think about, Rowett's moved on, and believe me, yeah, the football has been pretty awful. You need to respect the fact that he's done a fantastic job with us. He turned us around when Neil Harris fell on his sword and decided, right, this is enough for me. And maybe that was even at the back of his mind, potentially, that he was thinking that I need to move on before it starts getting really, really bad. And he's changed us from being a team looking over our shoulders, thinking we could get relegated, we need to put all men behind the ball, and actually no, we still do that anyway, but we need to try and turn us into a team that are looking up and thinking we need to be in the top half. And that is what he has done. He's established us as a competitive championship side. Last season was our chance to be in the playoffs, and I thought we may be able to keep that ball rolling, but that clearly knocked the stuffing out of a lot of the players, and maybe even Rowett himself. But it's, yeah, I don't really know who we would sign as our new manager. I know John Eustace has been mentioned. Kevin Muscat, I think we just need to not think about Kevin Muscat. We've got this allure of Muscat because he's a Millwall type player, but is he going to be the Millwall type manager? Is he going to be the kind of manager that's actually going to cause more fist fights in the dressing room than he is going to get us to play good football? I don't know, but I think we'll be going for someone that's more established in the Championship. Saw Chris Wilder has been mentioned. I really hope we don't go for Nathan Jones. No, thank you. Who else could there be? I don't really know. A lot of people say be careful what you wish for, but honestly, I think the last two managers we've had, Neil Harris and Rowett, have been positive steps forward, but they've reached a ceiling. They've hit their ceiling, and we need to just accept that we are going to be a team that are going to hopefully have a manager that is going to want to be at our club, because we are an attractive club for an out-of-work football manager to be working under. He would have a good relationship with our chairman. We're a very stable club. Yeah, the budget isn't great, but in terms of the culture and the environment of the club, it's very good. You've got some fantastic players who are currently there, plus coming through the youth system, and to have Imaku and Esse as players that you can mould and use their qualities in a positive manner will, I don't doubt, would inspire a lot of managers as well. The one thing that he or she, you don't know, will want to do is sort out our defence. We really need to sort out the defence and how we play, the formation we play, and being able to actually use the crowd like they should do. You know, there's only so much slow, plodding football we can deal with, certainly at the Den, but ball's in your court, Steve Kavanagh and James Berylson. Let's see what happens.
Yes, indeed. Ball is in the court of King Kavanagh. Let's see what we get. I'm just looking at, this is a post by Frankie Christou. There's others around, and the odds can vary, obviously, from bookmaker to bookmaker, but this looks like a par list of runners and riders in the Millwall race, listeners. So this is from Frankie. Next manager, Millwall manager odds. Kevin Muscat, favourite on this list, 4-1. Kevin Muscat. John Eustace, the ex-Birmingham manager, 5-1. Neil Warnock, 8s. Carl Robinson, 10s. Frank Lampard, 12-1. Nathan Jones, 12-1. Adam Barrett, who will be taking us up to Preston on Saturday and has managed the club before, of course, isn't he, Adam? And been number 2 to Gary Rowett for some time. And then 16-1, Steve Morrison, Hornchurch's manager. That would be quite a career move, wouldn't it? From Cardiff to Hornchurch and then back to Millwall, if that came off for Morrow. Not sure that Morrow's quite got the managerial depth yet for me. I mean, Muscat... He's going to. I mean, just reading through the posts online, listeners, he attracts a lot of Millwall fans, and we'll remember him. Maybe younger listeners don't. I don't know, but I think for the most part, the demographic of our show will remember Kevin Muscat very, very well. And yes, read his Wikipedia page, listeners. You know, 12 red cards in his career. I can't remember how many hundred yellow cards. We all remember him as a kind of a barely contained lunatic at times on the football pitch. We've seen the YouTube reels of him in Australia where he practically assaults a guy. We've all seen him at the Den. He was beloved at the Den, because also what came with Kevin Muscat was the kind of screw loose kind of quality, shall we call it? You know what I mean by that, listeners. But also he's a very good player, and I think that's something that does get missed in the names Kevin Muscat, because everyone immediately latches onto the downside of Kevin Muscat. The thing with Kevin Muscat was, yes, that was all there, and that if there's going to be one ground in a country where that's going to make you beloved, it's going to be Zampa Road, the Den. But he was also a very, very good player. He's also worked in Australia with Ange Postecoglou, the new Spurs manager, and has clearly, has achieved something in Japan. He's won some trophies there. He would be a risk, listeners. How much of a risk would he be? Are the club in the move for that kind of risk? Are they going to back another Aussie? It seems to be the moment for Australians in the game in this country. I don't know. I wouldn't want that decision. But Kevin Muscat is favourite on Frankie's list here, followed by John Eustace, who's done well at Birmingham. Whether he's going to be a fit for Millwall or not. Of course, Muscat does bring that knowledge of the club, which as the cliche has it, he knows the club. Warnock, I personally think you should put Warnock out of your mind. I think he'll be a short-term appointment at best. Carl Robinson, this is not turning me on, nor is Frank Lampard. Nathan Jones is banded around again, maybe not, who knows. And Adam Barrett and Steve Morrison, outsiders in the race. Take your pick. I mean, Muscat from that group is probably the dangerous choice. And I've always had a bit of a weakness, a foible, listeners, for the dangerous choice at crucial moments of my life. And it's caused me an untold misery on occasions, but I can't resist it. I'm off to the flame and all that malarkey. Anyway, on to the next voicemail. This one's from Lawrence Binney. Thanks for calling in, Lawrence.
Hi, Nick. Lawrence here, a second-time caller. Yeah, I mean, blimey. Didn't expect it to happen like this. Quite odd timing coming up to the just after the tail end of the international break. I'm not entirely sure why the club have decided to do it now. Perhaps Gary Rowett has his eyes on the West Brom job, which I noticed that he is now very, very short odds to take on. Something hasn't seemed right with Gary for a while, let's be honest. I think he probably wanted to go in the summer, may have been persuaded to stay, probably with promises of backing, which we did see. To be fair, he was backed considerably this summer, again, 2 summers in a row now. I don't know, I'm left with a kind of a feeling of magnanimity, I guess. I think I've softened now that I know he's gone. I think he did a very solid job while he was here. Consolidated our club at this level in a way that I don't think any manager really has since the 90s. I don't really include McGee and Wise in that because they inherited a fantastic squad. But, Rowett inherited a mediocre squad and turned it into a very competitive outfit. On the plus side, I am looking forward to what the future may bring. Hopefully a more positive style of football, especially at the Den. And yeah, we move on. I do wonder what Gary's legacy will be, because he's not, he's not got us promoted. He's not got us to the playoffs, but he has done what no Mill manager has been able to do for a very long time, which is to turn us into a solid championship outfit. For that, I think I'll always be very, very grateful to him for what he's done here. Cheers, Nick. Bye.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yeah, the West Brom job. Don't know about that. I've no inside track on that at all, listeners, as you would appreciate. The first thought with that would be if that meant that Jed Wallace would become disgruntled under Gary Rowett's return and would consider coming back to the Den on loan. That would be a wonderful thing. I don't know how you feel, listeners, but I would consider that a great outcome. They get Gary Rowett and maybe we get Jed back. That's my realm of fantasy that I inhabit. The magnanimous view, I like that turn of phrase, Lawrence. I do think magnanimity is the order of the day. He's done a good job with us, really, Gary Rowett. I will always wish for more exciting football, but he's judged on his league position and results, and for us to achieve top half finishes consistently for the last 4 years that he was here. I think there was one season where we didn't, but for the most part, that's where our expectation is, that we lie now in the hierarchy of the championship. Is a pretty good turnout. No, he didn't win us any baubles, and come the big game situations, his teams folded rather. So. And they've also produced some awful games on occasion, but that's being churlish. But yeah, let's say let's not be beastly to Gary Rowett. Legacy, we'll see. Really, I think the legacy is the fact we have the potential to have a really good side. He never really was one for playing the youngsters, was he, or playing the talent? All this business of you got to earn your place, old school. That's something I do hope changes under another, whoever it is that comes in to take over. Let's go now to Jim Littler.
Hello, Nick. It's Jim, Lion J 1971. Finally got my wish tonight. Rowett's done well in terms of stabilising the club, obviously, the past few years. We all know that, but he reached his limit some time ago. Anyone who was up at Wigan last year and Hull, Huddersfield, Blackburn, so many games last season where we just didn't turn up, and you can criticise the players, but ultimately it comes down to him as a manager. He couldn't get the players up for big games. The capitulation last year, we didn't make the playoffs, and Rowett's got to take the blame for that at the end of the day. So for one, I am delighted that he's gone. All these people saying who we're going to get in, well, yeah, Muscat, give him a go. Why not? It can't be any worse. Get Harris in alongside him as number 2. That way you've got a defensive manager and attacking-minded number 2. If not, then, you've got people like Michael Beale, you've got Nathan Jones. There's a number of people out there that will play better football than Rowett has done. Simple as that. We've got so many good young players, and all we need is someone who can throw him in there, mix it with a bit of the experience that we've got, and there's no two ways about it. We'll be a better team for it. We got as far as we could go with Rowett, and good luck to the fella. He'll probably turn up somewhere else and he'll ruin their club in terms of atmosphere and defensive football. But yeah, he stabilised us, but we've moved on. We're a better and bigger club than we were 4 or 5 years ago. So, thank him a little bit for that. But the time was right. Time was right ages ago. So delighted tonight, mate. Absolutely delighted. Cheers, Nick. Bye.
It's nice to hear so many happy voices on the show, Jim. I had to laugh at go and ruin someone else's club. Yeah, go and ruin West Brom or Derby or some Burton Albion. Ruin them, Gary. Yeah, the atmosphere has not been great for some time. Musket and Harris is a... we certainly wouldn't want for enthusiasm round the den, would we, with those two? Whether Neil Harris sees himself as a number 2 or not is the question. He's obviously managed pretty well, really, at Gillingham recently. Sacked in odd circumstances down there in Medway. But I would think, and I don't speak for Neil Harris, I would think he'd see himself as a number 1 rather than number 2. But anyway, we'll see. Just looking at the moment, talking about former players, and I'm not sure whether we should be fixated on former players or not, listeners. What do you think? I'm a bit wary of it, but I'm just looking at Steve Morrison. This is on the southwarknews.co.uk. Talking about the traits, the attributes required to be a Millwall manager. It sounds very much like a pitch to be manager, Steve. This is he's saying here that any potential manager needs to be a strong character who gives the fans something to enjoy watching, and I go along 100% with that. He says they just need to be themselves, they need to be strong characters, they need to be someone that can deal with the pressure from the fans. There's lots of people that wilt under that pressure, that's for sure. They don't go on to be a success at that football club, at Millwall. They do go on elsewhere and do really well. As I say, it reads very much like Morrow is pitching for the job, and who can blame him. Let's have a listen now to Matt Webb. Take it away, Matt.
Hi Nick, Matt Webb here for my voice note regarding the departure of Gary Rowett. Am I surprised? No. Am I shocked? No. I think the writing was on the wall since the Norwich game, if I'm brutally honest with you, when the performance led to his outburst in the press conference, basically attacking the fans. I think once you've done that, that's sort of like, you're in a downward spiral really of trying to not be a manager of the football club. But I look at it from this angle. Have we improved since when we appointed him? 100%. You can't fault the man for finishing in the top half, albeit if the performances weren't the best. He knew how to grind a result out, so you have to thank him for that. I also think you got to realise is that when he came to the club, he had a bit of a bad spell at Stoke, and he needed to basically get his managerial rep back to a standard where he could personally achieve more, whether that would have been with Millwall or, in this case now, another club. So it was, he has done well for us, and I thank him for that. And so now Millwall need to figure out which manager now, or which coach, can take us up to the higher level of the Championship, and even into the Premier League. So that's a nice little project for the recruitment team.
Big thank you to Matt. Sorry to chop half of the recording that you sent me, Matt, just as a tip for anyone, actually, but it went all muffled. I think possibly you had your finger or some part of the sleeve or something like that over the microphone. The microphone, generally speaking, on any smartphones at the bottom of the phone. And the ideal recording, listeners, leaves that free. but you don't talk straight into it. You want to talk just off of it, because otherwise you get plosives, which is that when you say the B's and the P's and you get the breath sound. So big thank you to Matt for that. I had to chop it, mate. It wasn't really easy to listen to. I'm just looking at a list here published by Millwall History listeners. Gary Rowett's place in the Millwall story in terms of longest serving managers. He's eighth longest serving manager, behind some classic names here: Bob Hunter, Benny Fenton, Charlie Hewitt, Kenny Jackett, Neil Harris, Mick McCarthy, George Graham, and Gary Rowett was just shy of 4 years that he was at the Den. I do agree with you there, Matt, about the Norwich game. It was a big turning point. I do wonder really how much of his heart was in the summertime. There's been quite a few comments and moments across the summer about players not being fit, choices of tactics, and you do wonder whether a sense of not being totally on his game, and being managerially by Gary Rowett, has fed through to the squad, and now I think it is the right time to go. But anyway, big thank you to Matt, and let's move along now. Let's have a listen next up to Graham Payne. Let's have a listen to Graham.
Hello, Nick. Graham Payne here with just some thoughts on Rowett leaving. Yeah, when it initially broke, last night, I was surprised and, to be honest, a bit shocked that it happened so close to Saturday's game. But having had a bit of time to think about it, I think probably Rowett, he's spent some time at home during this international break. He's probably had discussions with his wife, and he's come back, and then he's obviously been thinking, and he's obviously decided that he's had enough of the situation. The crowd obviously more or less turning on him, living away from home, and I think he's just gone into the club yesterday and said, I've had enough, and it was obviously decided to part ways, and that's why I think it's happened so close to the game on Saturday. I mean, we spoke on the pod after the Swansea game, and both of us said that I think it was time for him to go. But with the result at Plymouth and the whole draw, second half performance better, I didn't see it happening for a while. If I'm honest, I thought he'd probably see the season out and there'd probably be a change in the summer. But obviously he's decided no, now's the time. Looking back, yeah, he'll go down, as one of our better managers, just for the reason that he stopped the yo-yo between the Championship and the first division, and turned us into an established top half Championship team. Yes, the football at times, well, most of the time, has not been great. I go back to when he first come in, and that first season, it was better, up until the COVID break. And when he came back, it changed from there for me. Whether that was because of Callum Davis going, I mean, there's a lot said about that. I don't know, but the football was never the same after we come back after the COVID break. And yeah, a couple of times we nearly got in the playoffs, and I think last season, that was the one we should have got in the playoffs. And I personally said that I think he should have gone in the summer after the Blackburn game. I think he'd taken the club as far as he could then. So looking at who was going to succeed him, I really, I haven't got a first choice in my mind at the moment. I'd like to see who they see as the front runners first, but I certainly would have liked to have seen Adam Barrett and the other Paul Robinson go with him, and I would have preferred Nugent and our Paul Robinson, as I call him, in temporary charge for Saturday at Preston. But I don't know how long this is going to take. Obviously, we've got another game on Tuesday, so I can't see anyone being in charge before the Blackburn game, unless they have got someone lined up. I personally don't think they have. I think this has happened this week. I think Rowett has decided this week he's had enough, and they've parted ways. So Well, let's hope they, it's an important decision, and let's hope they get the right this time. Like they did with Rowett in some respects, it was the right appointment at the time after Neil Harris. So, but obviously it's a different chairman this time. But let's hope we get it right. Come on, you Lions.
Yeah, different chairman, Graham. I agree. We said this on the emergency pod that we did last night. It's a massive moment, a huge, split of the river, so to speak. We can go one way, or the road. That's a better analogy. The road goes one way or the other here. It's going to be interesting to see what James Berylson has in mind for the football club. It seems to have been a mutual decision. There was quite an extensive statement, which would have taken a while to get those quotes, together and agreed and all the rest of it. So I know what you mean about the suddenness of it and the going away with his family. I think that's been an important part. He mentioned his family in the post-Norwich fallout, and ill-judged, I think, by common consent. But the impact of living away from home, I think I've just read somewhere on, I don't know if it's on one of the WhatsApps or on Twitter, listeners, but his boy was 11 when he started at Millwall. He's now 15. Those are huge 4 years in any kid's development, aren't they? So not to be around on a regular basis for that can't be easy. That's the price of football. It's not a sport or a business, as we should call it, that is easy on families. You see that. I was totally different level. I was watching the Beckham documentary that's on Netflix. And even at that level, the toing and froing, the moving from place to place, country to country in Beckham's case, but, it takes its toll on any family, trying to have a normal, regular family life. That can't have been easy on Gary Rowett here. I suppose football-wise, the signs are on the wall for some time. For me, I think going into this season, the fact that our defence still rests on Jake Cooper, Murray Wallace, and had he been fit, Sean Hutchinson, is probably the biggest criticism I think that we can level at the club. That would include Gary Rowett, because that's largely Neil Harris's defence back in League One. And the best teams are ruthless. The best teams adapt, and the best teams, kill their darlings. They move their names along at the right time. We've never been terribly good at that at the Den, and I think maybe that's the downside of where we're at. But that said, as you've said there, Graham, and as others have said, he's raised our level, he's raised our expectation. Whether that's a realistic expectation, I don't know. There was a comment made on the YouTube feed when you stick a podcast online. Now they also post it on YouTube, and someone, not a Millwall fan, I don't know which club he supported, this chap, but he said you should all give your heads a wobble with, I think by that he meant that there's a sense of over expectation on what is a relatively small resourced club at Millwall. So I think that's what Neil said a few times about the unrealistic expectations that sometimes you see online. Let's take a listen now to Jim Hackett. Let's have a listen to Jim's voicemail.
Well, Nick, Jim Hackett here after a night of thinking about the Rowett situation and where we go next. I'm disappointed. I think if he was going to go, probably should have gone at the end of the season after the Blackburn game. He didn't, therefore we're sort of a third of the way through, or not even a third, probably a quarter of the way through this season, and during the international break there's something obviously gone on that's pissed him off, maybe pissed the club off, and they've agreed to part ways, if that's the right term to use. I think it's probably on his terms, because I can't see the club having sacked him. They would have done it earlier. So however he goes, he's gone. I'm disappointed because as much as he gets criticised, he's also kept us pretty stable for the last couple of years. And at times we have looked good. At times we look terrible, but at times we look good. And it was certainly a forward movement from the days of Neil Harris and even Kenny Jackett. We've pushed on as a club. We're now expecting a little bit of success, when in reality you look at our squad and the costs and everything we put into it, then I think Rowett's done a decent job, and it's a shame he's gone this way, but at least it didn't linger. So let's see where we go next. As for replacing him, I think I'm not convinced that our hierarchy, our top table group of the knowledge or the experience to actually appoint somebody who fits the club. Whether there are people out there that do fit the club, I don't know, but given a choice, I think for me, I couldn't even think of one of them. I think off the top of my head, you've got Nathan Jones, Wilder, everybody have gone about Warnock, Kevin Muscat, unproven, but do you know what? Whoever they go with, I think he's going to get a honeymoon period of about 2 games, and then maybe we'll all realise that Rowett wasn't such a bad option after all. But he's gone. I've been involved in clubs before where a manager's gone, been sacked, walked away, whatever, and everybody for the first couple of days is a bit giddy, and the expectation, it's like getting a new girlfriend. Everybody's expectations there, and as soon as it happens, you actually realise that what you had wasn't as bad as what's going on now. So we'll see where it goes. Hopefully we'll get something at Preston, even if it's a draw, but I'm not convinced that where we are at the moment is where we're going to end up. I'd hate to think that a poor appointment's coming, because you just want the club to do well and push on from where we are. So good luck everybody for Saturday, and come on you Lions.
I like that analogy of a new girlfriend, Jim. I think we all know that situation, don't we? Yeah, it's been a funny time with Gary Rowett. I do take the point that you should be careful what you wish for. Great saying. Equally, we have had a funny period. I mean, it's a really strange managerial period. I was trying to look through the 4 years earlier on, listeners, before I started doing this. I thought I might try and get a few talking points from the 4 years that that Rowett's been with us. And I suppose the main sense is what if, or if only, or some phrase like that. Apart from that immediate period when he first arrived with us after Neil Harris had gone, when we really did look to be motivated, we had that fantastic burst of form, and then the classic 3-0 win at Nottingham Forest before the whole of life shut down. We seem to be going places. We've never really reignited from there for whatever reason. I don't know. What we have had under Gary Rowett is bursts of rather average wins, although we could get successive wins together. So we'd have bursts of decent results combined with bursts of dire results and dire form as well. So when we're good, we're okay, and when we're bad, we're horrid. And I'd forgotten completely about the periods of where we couldn't get a goal, couldn't get a win, and then games like Coventry at the end of the behind closed doors season where we got slaughtered 6-1. So that's very strange, and as much as I don't come here to damn Gary Rowett, there have been problems for a while. Whether those problems are realistic ones to have in our heads, whether we are over expecting too much from a club that is up against millionaires and we're paupers, I don't know. Do we have the savvy? Does the managerial team have the savvy to know where to go to replace him? It's going to be a big test, big test. So it's going to be an interesting period going forwards there. Big thank you to Jim Hackett for his contribution, and everyone actually. I'm going to have a listen now to Matt Richards, one of our show regulars. Have a listen to Matt.
Hi Nick, Matt Richards here. Yeah, I think I'm not going to go into why he's got or whether he should go. I think he's done a really, really good job. But I'm not desperately sad because 4 years is a long time. Us as a fan base, we need to really think long and hard about what do we want from the club, because Harris wasn't doing, he was out of his depth. We were playing hoofball, we were going down. We know we needed to have someone who could play more of a possession-based game. But possession-based game means you need to be a bit more patient. We're not going to go back to the 80s of Cascarino and Sheringham up front and flying wingers. It's just not going to happen. So we have to have a degree of patience, and most new managers play like that. So I guess what I'm saying is that whoever comes in to replace Rowett could be quite a similar type of manager, and us as fans have got to get used to that. because we could just hound out the next manager. You know, if we're not suddenly 2-0 up within 45 minutes or something like that, or you know, we draw a game or something. It's that's the way things are. Or if people would rather us go down a division, and then we can play more of the old type of football, more exciting football, hoofing it up and more direct, then fine. But you know, I think we just need to decide. Not me. I think I'm happy. I know what I'd rather have. I want us winning games. I don't really care. But there's this group of fans that expect something which I don't think is actually possible with our budget in this division. And you know, I think there needs to be a serious. Well, it won't be a serious discussion about it because it will just whatever happen will happen. But I think the new appointment is an absolutely critical one, probably the most critical one ever, because of how much money we've spent and the quality of the squad. And yeah, it's a really tough one. We need to move on. We've got a chance to move on, but I think the whole club needs to be with it. We need to have the fans behind the new appointment, because I don't think the fans were ever fully behind Rowett. Anyway. That's my 2 pennyworth. Yeah, come on, you lines.
Interesting, thoughtful stuff, Matt. I do agree the modern game is one thing, and Millwall FC and the likes of you and me and the crowd that go there are slightly something else. I mean, you see it not just on the football field, you see it off the field, you see it in the general desires and expectations that we all have. I mean, I've said it, and maybe it's too simplistic a way to look at the game. I would accept it if someone within the sport said, you don't know what you're talking about, Nick. But I suppose my main ask from Millwall FC is that I go there every fortnight, roughly speaking. Don't quite work out that way, but I want to go there and I want to be entertained. And I think that's what Morrow was saying in his piece. I'm not advocating for Morrison, listeners, don't get me wrong, but I do want to see some fast attacking football, and that's going to be the if you picked out, you know, one thing, it's going to be that for me. You know, the drama of the den and all that kind of thing. Maybe that won't sustain you over a league, over a modern day championship. It probably won't. I'm just looking also as I'm talking. My attention was caught by Adam Barrett's gone on the club website, doing like a video in the gym, with the hard work, intensity and desire as his 3 non-negotiables, as he puts it here. I think Adam Barrett might fancy a go. He's been there before. I've actually followed all of Adam Barrett's games. I think I was at the Leeds win. I'm trying to think back, and then did we get beat at Brentford under Adam? And then I think, was it a draw with Watford? I can't remember if that was at home or away. I would have been at all 3 of Adam Barrett's manager. I'm like some kind of Adam Barrett groupie, listeners, aren't I? Hard work, intensity, desire is Adam's non-negotiables. It's interesting who's popping up on social media already. I take your point, Matt, about hoofball. Neil Harris hoofball will be found out at this level, so we can't expect that. And I am also willing to be patient. I'm not willing to be bored. How do you combine that? I don't know. Any road up, listeners, that's enough of that. Let's have a listen rather to Ben Anthony.
Well, listeners, Ben Anthony calling in. I don't know about you, but that was a bit of a surprise. I didn't see that one coming. But looking at the statement from the club and reading the words of James Berylson and of Gary Rowett, I agree with Rowett's words that the time was right for both. I think both the club, the fans, and for Rowett himself for everybody to move on and have a fresh start. Yeah, it was interesting. I think it is a mutual termination. I know that word gets battered about quite a lot in football and is often seen as code for being sacked. But I think actually this does appear to be a mutual agreement, the fact that Rowett's statement is included in the announcement sort of suggests that. So yeah, fair play, you'd have to say, to Rowett for stepping down when he didn't need to, and fair play to James Berylson for allowing that to happen and making that decision. Not an easy decision, I imagine. So I think, first of all, talking about Gary Rowett and his time at Millwall, you have to give him some credit. I think he's stabilised this football club over the last 4 years. We were kind of historically a yo-yo club between that League One and the Championship, and he's put a stop to that. We've been pretty consistently performing, as many people say, above our weight in terms of budget, and that's worthy of credit. I think that 4 top half finishes in his time, and but the problem, of course, was that we would never quite manage to make that step up into the playoffs, and the by the looks of things, the football, particularly at home, had started to take a downward turn, a downward spiral, and perhaps a new set of ideas, a new voice could be the thing that changes that and keeps us making progress, which is what we've got to hope. It's a bit of a gamble now, but that is where we are. Hopefully we can make the right call and we can get the right person in. And I think that's the interesting thing about the statement. The statement said, or Rowett said, that the time was right for him to move on. But I think the timing is odd. At the end of a 2-week international break, you'd think that if you're going to make that change, it would be at the start of the international break. I noticed that Berylson was actually over for the last game. He was at the Den. And so when no announcement had been made, I assumed that everything was staying as it was. So I wonder if it's taken its time, either negotiating a sort of severance package for Rowett, that's possible, or maybe behind the scenes there has been some discussion about a successor, and maybe there would be some kind of an announcement sooner rather than later. So the timing in terms of when it's been announced is interesting. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Who that would be, I don't know. No, nobody knows that. But a few names bandied about. You'd have to think Wilder would be a great choice. I wonder whether we would be able to afford him or give him the budget that he would want. But I actually think John Eustace, I think, is a really interesting option. I'd be interested in him and seeing what he could bring. I thought he was pretty screwed over by Birmingham, and I think he could be a good fit for us. And the other person that people keep mentioning is Kevin Muscat, and you'd have to feel that he could do a job for us and would definitely get the crowd back involved at the Den. So, 3 really strong options there for manager. Please don't let it be fucking Neil Warnock. I just hope that doesn't happen. Very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. We'll be watching Saturday with great interest. And then, of course, there's the home game against Blackburn on the Tuesday. And, I'm wondering, I wouldn't be hugely surprised if a new manager was sat in the stands on Tuesday watching the team. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But credit to the club, credit to Rowett, credit to the chairman. And, full support for Adam Barrett in the dugout against Preston on Saturday. So, we move forward. Come on, you Lions.
New manager by Tuesday night is an interesting idea there, Ben. That's for sure. Don't know whether the extent of the planning and the timing of it all has been, debated ad infinitum online. I'm just looking at a selection here. Simon Moorcroft says that the timing isn't surprising given it was a mutual parting and not a sacking. With the timing of James Berylson's appearance at the last home match, he thinks that negotiations must have started then and culminated now, which is about right. I mean, it would take a while to agree a severance package. You've seen all sorts of figures being bandied around as to how much Rowett might have been entitled to, which will be part and parcel of that conversation. Gary Rowett is immediately on the media round. He was on TalkSport this morning, apparently speaking well about us. So he's going to get work. He's not going to go skint, dear listeners. Tom S says he slept on it. The timing sucks, says Tom, unless we appoint Eustace today. Useless Eustace used to be a cartoon strip in the Daily Mirror. He also thinks that a lot of the stick that Gary Rowett got was out of order. Criticising his bad home form and dull tactics is legitimate. Calling him a cunt in public isn't. He's done right by us. That would kill anyone's motivation. I'm with you there, Tom. I do think that people go to extremes very, very quickly in the football world. They always have done. It's magnified now by social media. And James Gibbons, one last one. James Gibbons says he's led to believe that both the board and Gary Rowett wanted out a few weeks ago. I expect the time since has been negotiating the mutual agreement. He may also have wanted to stay until he could go out on more of a high, and generally the performance versus Hull City was better than usual. Yeah, to some extent, James. Who knows? Big few days ahead of us. I'm going to play us out today's voicemail show now with one from Tony Monday, who has been historically probably a voice for Gary Rowett, whereas many people have been against him. Over a longer period than recent times. So we're going to play us out now with Tony to see what Tony's got to say. Big thank you to everyone today for sending in this content at such short notice. I do appreciate it.
Hello, Nick. It's Tony Bundy here. Just thought I'd have my 2 pennies worth on yesterday's news. I feel sad that he's gone. It's a bit like when Kenny Jackett left. And I'm not disappointed. I'm just sad. It feels like a good part of the club has gone and it's left. Kenny done a great job, but when he went, it was the time to go. And I do feel the same about Rowett. Feel it probably was time to go. A bit like even with Neil Harris, he done a great job, just like Kenny and Rowett. But when he went, it was time to go. And I think it sort of reached the end of the road. I think it probably happened at Norwich when the fans are calling him a cunt, which I thought was totally out of order and wrong. Criticise the football, yeah, but the man's not a cunt. He's been brilliant for us. He's progressed us, moved us on. He's like Kenny. He's stuck with the fans. Like, he's never criticised the fans when things have happened and all that. And he's done a couple of marathons for Millwall charities, like the food hub. He's been part of the furniture. And whatever anyone says, he has moved us on and put us in a place. Like Kenny kept us up from Division 4 and got us up to the Division 2. Neil Harris done the same. He couldn't stop the rot from Holloway, but got us back up, stabilised us, got us back up. And he went when he'd reached his thing, and this is what Rowett's done his bit, and he's moved us up as well. He's stepped us up the next rung of the ladder. I think the 3 of them, if you look back over the 15 years, those 3 have done marvellous work for us. And but yeah, he's gone, but time to go and say it's got a bit stout, and I think he reached his ceiling with his squad. I think he overachieved a bit, personally. We'd stopped progressing, and although I don't think we were going backwards, but we're just not pushing on anymore. People saying he's been sacked, and I think included a few on your podcast last night. But it's clear in the statement. It says that he didn't like. I think I'm paraphrasing, but he said the words are something like in all jobs, I feel like it's the right time to go, and he feels like it's the right time, and I think it's commendable that he's done that. The people were saying about the timing, but I actually believe this was done a few days ago at least, because in the statement also it says an extensive recruitment is already underway. So that makes me think that's been in place for a few days. I think they've probably just delayed the announcement to allow the players who's been away on international duty to come back, and for the announcement and for him to say goodbye and all that. Looking forward, am I excited? No, I'm apprehensive. I look at Rowett, as I said, I think Rowett's overachieved with this group of players. I don't think they're a top 8 squad. So I think he's done well to get us 8th twice. I don't think they're a top half squad, if I'm honest. Like, look at the forward line. Tom Bradshaw, we like him because he runs his bollocks off, scores a few goals and all that, but he's not quality, is he? Nisbet, we've seen nothing of him so far, really. And this is what we're doing. We're surviving on scraps, and I think that's why he's done a great job, because we can't. Leeds have got an £80 million strike force. We just can't live with that. And so we're struggling to bring players in of quality, and we can't pay the wages that these other teams are paying for. He's done really well, and this is why I'm apprehensive. He obviously done a good job at Burton. He left Birmingham, he got sacked at Birmingham in 6th place. They've never finished above 17th place since. He gave them 2 top 10 finishes and had them 6th when he got sacked. They've never finished above 17th since. Went to Derby, got them in the playoffs, and he left of his own accord to go to Stoke. Stoke sacked him after, I don't know how many months, 5 months. They was in 14th, and they've never finished above 14th since he left. This is what worries me, and because it seems like he can get a tune out of teams, even if it's not entertaining and it's not exciting. He can get the maximum out of a team. That's how he knows stats. That's how it looks to me. And I'm just worried that whoever comes in won't be able to do that. They may be a good manager, but I'm just a bit worried. I'm a bit apprehensive that we are going to be sinking back to where we usually are. I mean, our average finishing position ever is probably 6th in Division 3, but I'd say over the last 20 years it's probably 18th, 19th, 20th in Division 2. Rowett's had 8, 9 and 11. Well above our average. 4 of our best ever finishes in our history. As I say, time to go, so I'm not saying that. I'm just sad that he's gone. Who's coming in? People keep saying Muscat, but just because he kicked people up in the air when he was here and he's a Millwall type player doesn't mean he's going to be a great manager. I know he's doing something out in Japan, but it's a totally different ball game out there. Bill's being mentioned. He's done okay, and people saying, "Oh, he's no loyalty," but he turned down Wolves from QPR, and then the Rangers jobs just seemed a bit too big. And who's the other one that's being? I can't remember. I don't want Nathan Jones. He's done okay at Luton. Yeah, he's been an absolute failure at Stoke and at Southampton, and he's an absolute lunatic. He just doesn't seem to know what he's doing. He's just, I think he just must have been a good fit for Luton. So no, I don't want him. Eustace, I wouldn't mind, because I think he did quite a good job at. He worked his way up, hasn't he? I think he did okay at Kidderminster. I thought he did a great job keeping Birmingham up last year, and he's had a little bit of money this summer, and he's recruited well for Birmingham, and that shows in where they are in the league at the minute. There's other managers about. There's Richie Wellens, who's at Orient. I mean, he's had a few jobs, but he plays good football, and that's his philosophy. And he's got a good reputation. Maybe wouldn't mind him. But that's what I want. I mean, the new style of football is this quick transition. I think Blackburn are doing it. But most of the teams in the championship, Leeds are doing it. A lot of the teams in the championship are playing this, like getting the ball and breaking quickly in numbers. I wouldn't mind a manager doing that, because we have been. Let's be honest, we haven't played proper attacking football since 2004. So people saying, "Oh, fuck Rowett, right? It's boring." It's been boring, but you know what? It's been boring for even up the last 20 years. So yeah, whoever we get in, it's got to be the right person. And yeah, just a little bit of a different philosophy. Yeah, if we just get some bodies forward and just get the crowd going again. Because it is true. I mean, as much as I'm a Rowett fan, yeah, it's not great. It's not great to watch. Sometimes it has been, but the majority of the time, and I'd say 70% of the time, it's just like, you know what, you can take it or leave it, and you think, oh fuck me, like you don't want it. I got to the stage I didn't want to score early, because I knew if we scored early, we wasn't going to have much of the ball after that. So yeah, we just need someone in with just a different thing. Get the crowd going again. Get the crowd behind us. And that was it. Yeah. Well, another thing I say, although our own record has been disappointing in the last year or so, or maybe even more than that. Maybe our away record has been better than I can remember in our history, consistently over these 4 years. And I know it's the style of football that he's played, but it's worked away from home. He just needed to find something that works at home. I've waffled on a little bit, but I hope he'll get a job very quickly. I imagine, because it's that season now where they all get the sack. He'll get a good job somewhere pretty quickly, and I think he deserves it, and he'll do well wherever he goes. And good luck to the man. Cheers, Nick.
Nicely put, Tone. I agree with large chunks of what you're saying there. I do wish Gary Rowett well. I think he has done a job for us, and I do agree very much so with yourself and a few others actually over the course of this show and online, that he just reached the kind of, what's the word, that's not glass ceiling, but you know what I mean, he'd reached the limit on where he can take this particular squad. Investment is going to be key. You've mentioned there about the likes of Leeds and others that have the ability to play in tens of millions for players, 80 million I think you said for a striker. Well, we don't have that ability, never will have that kind of ability unless we get bought up by some petro state somewhere in need of a bit of sports washing. Unless that happens, I can't see us being able to play at that level. We've said it already. We just want to be a little bit more entertainment, I think. Whether that's too much to ask for in a modern game or not, I don't know. I was looking, funny enough, you mentioned the home form and the away form. Our home form by Millwall standards hasn't been brilliant. It hasn't been as bad as I think it maybe has felt at times. I think the quality of football has felt like a heavier weight on our shoulders than the actual statistics. I was looking at the home and away tables. We're by no means near the top of the home league table, which maybe for Millwall is seen as a bit of a shocker. But we're certainly not down in the bottom slots. It would be kind of middle for diddle, somewhere around average, higher or lower than middle, which isn't brilliant. I take it, but I think maybe it's felt worse than it actually has been in many times. That is reinforced by the end league positions that we've mentioned many times. I'm just looking at Richard Corley, South London Press, just as I'm winding up the show, listeners. Interesting. Adam Barrett says it was a shock that Gary Rowett's departure, and it was a mutually agreed departure, not a sacking. I think last night when we recorded, it was very much in the immediate echoes of the announcement. So, no, I mean, I just want to second the fact that it was with mutual agreement, not a sacking. But Adam Barrett says it was a shock. I wasn't expecting it when asked about Mill development. It's been a bit of a whirlwind evening and morning. He is pitching for it, and I don't blame him for saying this. This is a good thing to see. Ambition in a man is a good thing. Adam says, I'm my own man with my own ideas. He also adds that injuries limit his selection options, and he doesn't have lots of prep time for the lunchtime kickoff at Preston. So yeah, interesting times. The other thing I just wanted to add, and that made me laugh, was it's been boring for 20 years. I looked at it that way, Tone. I think you're probably right there, mate. So where my delusion that we're going to get attacking football then has come from, I don't know. Maybe I'm ignoring the lessons of a lifetime spent following the Lions. I don't know. Anyway, enough already, listeners. A really, really big thank you to everyone that's sent contributions into this show. I really enjoy the voicemail show. If you do want to contribute to Achtung Millwall going forwards, you can contact me via X, Twitter. It goes to direct message. My messages are open. Not for any of your personal problems. Don't send me those. I'm not like some people that say my messages are open for all your issues out there. I've got enough of my own stuff going on. So anything Millwall related, do send me a voicemail message. It's in the bottom corner, direct message. There's a little sound file symbol. Just press that and speak into your smartphone. Not directly into it though, just off of it, like I said earlier on. Or if you've got my mobile number, you can WhatsApp me, or send it by text message or anything like that. Always good to hear from people. Huge thank you to everyone. Huge thank you to you too, dear listeners, for tuning into these two rather emergency shows. I'm podcasted out for the day, but before I go, I'm going to give you the answer to our punditgames.co.uk question earlier on, the number one football quiz game. This relates to an elegant Spaniard who made his name at Valencia before going to Lazio for 47 million euros. Then finishing his career at Middlesbrough with 4 years on Teesside, including a League Cup win in 2004. This is through the 90s and 2000s. He finished up 2003 to 8 at Middlesbrough. Then that player's name is Gaizka Mendieta. Mendieta was that player. Punditgames.co.uk is the number one football quiz game. Get it for Christmas. Thank you for listening. Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
Brings